In the heart of the Zorthri Empire, where crystal towers floated in the sky and planets bowed before royalty, the Grand Assembly Hall shimmered with silver-blue light. Thousands of nobles, advisors, and alien scholars sat in perfect silence. Waiting for the Crown Princess to speak, Princess Soraya stood tall at the center of the circular hall. Her gown flowed like liquid starlight, and her eyes, deep violet with golden specks, reflected the stars themselves. She looked calm, but her hands were tightly folded behind her back. Today was supposed to be a simple tradition. Every royal heir on their 100th year gave a formal speech announcing their future goals and responsibilities. It was ceremonial, it's predictable, but Soraya had other plans. The High Chancellor, long-necked being with pale gray skin, raised his staff and announced, "Her Royal Highness, Princess Soraya Karel of the Zorthri Empire, may now speak." Everyone leaned forward. Soraya took a breath. "Honored members of the Assembly, citizens of the Empire, my mother, Empress Karel, I thank you for being here." Polite applause echoed. Soraya waited for silence before continuing. "Today, I wish to speak not just of duty, but of choice." Her voice was strong, confident. "For 1,000 years, our people have led the stars with wisdom and order. We have made alliances, shaped civilizations, and guarded peace." People nodded. This was normal so far. Soraya paused, and she said the words that would shake the empire. "But for the future to grow stronger, I believe we must open our hearts, not just our borders. And that is why, after long thought and research, I have chosen a human from Earth as my future mate." The silence was instant, total. It lasted only 5 seconds. But it felt like eternity. Then came the noise. Whispers exploded. Some nobles gasped out loud. One old advisor dropped his crystal scroll. A noblewoman coughed in shock. "A human?" someone said, horrified. "They're barely a spacefaring species. They still eat meat with fire. They don't even have neural resonance." Empress Kirel, seated high on the floating throne, stared at her daughter. Her face was unreadable. The Empress had ruled for over 3 centuries. She had survived political games, solar uprisings, and failed alliances. But never in all her years had she heard anything like this. Silence. The Chancellor shouted, striking his staff. The room quieted. The Empress finally spoke. "Soraya," she said slowly, her voice smooth like velvet and steel. "Do you understand what you are saying?" "Yes, Mother," Soraya replied. Her eyes met the Empress's without fear. "I have studied Earth's people. I've watched their leaders, their thinkers, their artists. I have learned their languages. Their species is young, yes, but not simple. Their emotional depth, their courage to choose love over power. I believe it makes them strong in ways we do not understand." "They are unpredictable," said a senator. "They are chaotic," added a general. "They are human," Soraya said, and for the first time she smiled. "Exactly." The Empress leaned back, silent for a moment. "You would choose a mate not of noble blood, not of our kind. One who may never fully bond with you in the Zorthri way." "I would choose one who sees me for who I am," Soraya said softly, "not what I represent." The hall buzzed again. A few younger nobles nodded quietly. But the elders looked horrified. "This breaks tradition," said the High Historian. "No royal has ever made it outside of the 9 allied species." "This could weaken our image," said another. "People will question your judgment." "I do not lead to please image," Soraya replied. "I lead to build the future." The Empress raised a hand. "Enough." Everyone froze. She looked down at her daughter, her face unreadable. "Very well, you have spoken your desire. But a desire is not a decree. You will prove your choice." Soraya's eyes flickered. "How?" The Empress stood. Her gown flowed like nebula mist. "We'll go to Earth. Find this human of your choice. Bring him here. Let the Assembly meet him. He must agree willingly, with full understanding of what a royal bond means." "I understand," Sira said, bowing slightly. And if he says no, then I accept it. The Empress studied her for a moment longer, then turned to the assembly. The princess have her trial. She will have 30 planetary rotations to return with her chosen human. Until then, this matter is paused. The chancellor struck his staff once more. Assembly dismissed. The nobles rose, whispering loudly as they exited the hall. News drones zipped through the air, already sending the story across the stars, breaking, Princess Soraya chooses human mate. Empire in shock. Later that night, in the royal observatory, Soraya stood alone, looking out at the stars. The galaxy stretched before her like a glowing river. She held a small data crystal in her hand. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "You always were full of surprises," said a woman behind her. It was her mother. Soraya turned. "Did I embarrass the Empire?" The Emperor stepped closer. "You may have confused it, but you did not embarrass it." Sierra looked back at the stars. "They will say I'm foolish." "Perhaps," the Empress said, "but sometimes change begins with foolish dreams." They stood together in silence for a while, and the Empress asked quietly, "Do you truly believe a human can handle life here? The pressure, the expectations, the politics." "I don't need him to handle everything," Soraya said, "just to stand beside me." The Empress gave a small, rare smile. "Then go find him. Show us why humanity deserves a place not just in our records, but in our hearts." Meanwhile, far across the stars, on a small blue planet called Earth, a man named Elias Mercer was sipping tea in his study. Books covered his walls, books on language, culture, alien psychology. He yawned and looked out the window at the moon. Had no idea that soon a starship would appear in orbit just for him, and that an alien princess had already chosen him. As the future of a galaxy, Elias Mercer was not a hero. He wasn't a soldier or a scientist who saved planets or a leader with power. He was something much quieter, a teacher. He taught xenolinguistics at a university in London. It was a fancy word for alien languages. And Elias had studied over a dozen. He was one of the few humans trusted to speak with alien visitors during peaceful missions. Calm, patient, and curious, that was Elias. That evening, he was sitting in his small office. His window was open, and the sound of rain tapped gently against the glass. He sipped a warm cup of tea and leaned back in his chair. He didn't know his name had already been spoken in the grandest hall of a distant empire. Not yet. The message from the star Zulius was reading an old Zorthri poem when his screen flashed. A symbol appeared, one he had never seen before. It shimmered in gold, then formed a message. "You have been invited to a diplomatic journey on behalf of the Zorthri royal court. Immediate transport available. Consent required." He blinked. "Is this a prank?" he muttered. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. Then his office door opened. A tall figure entered, smooth silver skin, eyes like polished mirrors, and a voice like wind through leaves. "I am Envoy Zelen, representative of Her Highness, Princess Soraya of the Zorthri Empire," the figure said calmly. "You have been selected for a special cultural exchange. Do you accept?" Elias stood up slowly. "You mean ... now? Yes?" He looked around at his books, his tea, his quiet life. Then he smiled. "Well, all right then." First contact again, the ship was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Smooth. White halls glowing with soft blue lights, and no engines that made noise. The air smelled like clean rain. Elias walked slowly beside Envoy Zelen, trying not to trip over his own feet. They reached a small chamber with a round window showing Earth shrinking behind them. "It's beautiful," Elias whispered. "It is," Zelen agreed. "But it is." "Small compared to where we are going?" Elias looked at him. "Why me?" Zelen paused. "Because the princess believes you are different, notionally intelligent, honest." Elias raised an eyebrow. "She's never even met me. She has observed you, your lectures, your writings, your ideas about peaceful understanding." Elias gave a nervous laugh. "Well, I hope I don't disappoint her." Meeting the princess, the journey lasted only 1 hour. Zorthri ships moved faster than light, folding space like pages in a book. When they arrived, Elias was led to a private chamber. The walls looked like they were made of glass and moonlight. Strange flowers bloomed from the corners, floating in the air without roots. Then she entered, Princess Soraya. She wore a robe that shifted colors with her movement: violet, gold, then soft pink. Her hair flowed behind her like a ribbon of stars. Elias stood frozen, unsure whether to bow or shake hands. Instead, he just smiled awkwardly. Hi. Soraya tilted her head, curious. Then she smiled. Hello, Elias Mercer. It is good to finally meet you. Her voice was warm, calm, and musical. You know my name, he said. I chose you. He blinked. Chose me. For what? Soraya stepped closer. You will know soon. But first I want to speak with you not as royalty, but as a person. May we talk? Elias nodded, and they sat together on a floating platform covered with soft light. A strange and honest conversation. They talked for hours. About Earth's music, about Zorthri thought-sharing, about childhood fears and favorite smells. Soraya asked him why humans cried during movies. Elias asked her why Zorthri never touched palms. Their laughter echoed through the chamber, like starlight dancing. Elias felt no fear. Just wonder. At one point she asked, why do you think humans are always curious? Elias smiled. Because we're small, and we know it. So we look up, always hoping there's something bigger. And maybe someone out there is looking back. Syrah was silent for a long time. Then she whispered, I was looking back. The truth revealed the next morning. Elias was brought to the royal garden, a massive dome filled with life from many planets. The center stood the Empress herself, tall, graceful, eyes like cold fire. Elias bowed this time. You are the human. My daughter has chosen, she said. Elias stood straight. Chosen... for what, exactly? Soraya stepped forward beside her mother. Elias, she said gently, I want you to be my bondmate. Elias blinked. Once, twice. I'm sorry. Your Highness? What? I wish to form a union, she said, between us. A partnership. You would not be just a symbol, you would be my equal. Elias's brain struggled to catch up. Wait, you want to marry me? Not in the Earth sense, Soraya said, a little amused, but yes. Elias looked at the Empress, who said, nothing. Then back at Soraya. You don't even know me. I've studied you, but more importantly, I feel something when we speak. Your thoughts are open. Your heart is kind. You see beauty in weakness, not just strength. That is rare, Elias. Took a deep breath, says a lot. I know, she said softly. You may say no. He paused. Let me ask you something, he said. Why risk your title, your reputation? For someone like me? Soraya looked him in the eye. Because if I cannot choose love with freedom, then I am not truly a leader. I am just a puppet wearing a crown. Galakshi reacts. It didn't take long for the news to explode. Alien princess wants human mate? Earthman chosen for royal bonding? Is he worthy? Humans join the great houses of the galaxy? Every channel in the galaxy was talking about Elias Mercer. Back on Earth, people were shocked. Some cheered. Some laughed. Others wondered if this was the beginning of something new. Elias, meanwhile, walked quietly through the palace gardens, thinking he liked Soraya a lot. But becoming her mate meant more than just love. It meant leaving Earth, facing alien politics, becoming the symbol of a bridge between two species. Could he do that? Should he? A private question later that evening. Elias stood with Soraya on a balcony under a sky with 5 moons. I'm just a man, he said. I don't have powers. I don't come from a famous family. But if I'm not enough? Soraya looked at him with quiet strength. Then we rise together, or we fall together, but we choose together. Elias looked at her, at the stars, at the future stretching wide before him. Then give me time, he said. Let me learn. Let me see your world fully, not as a guest, but as someone who might stay. Soraya nodded. You will have it. Ow. They stood together in silence, not as princess and subject, but as two people from different stars, walking the same path. For the next 5 rotations of the twin moons, Elias Mercer remained on the royal world of Zorthor Prime. Life in the Empire was strange but beautiful. The air was always fresh, controlled by floating gardens that hung like islands in the sky. Buildings shifted shape depending on who entered, adapting to mood and need. Time felt slower here, or maybe Elias was just overwhelmed. He had agreed to stay for a while, to learn, to understand. But the truth still pressed against his thoughts. Was he truly ready to become the mate of an alien princess? The council's challenge one morning, Elias was summoned to the Grand Council. Again, he found himself standing in the same glowing hall where Soraya had once made her bold declaration. But now, he was the one in the center. 12 members of the Royal Council surrounded him. Each represented a core part of Zorthri society. Knowledge, emotion, history, defense, and more. Princess Sira stood at his side, but she said nothing. She had promised not to interfere. High Scholar, Threnos, who wore floating rings around his head, stepped forward first. Elias Mercer, you are here as the one chosen by Princess Soraya. Before any bonding may occur, the council must approve. You will be tested. Elias kept his voice calm. What kind of tests? Tests of heart, of will, and of understanding, said another. Counselor, we do not seek strength. We seek compatibility. Then I accept, Elias said, surprising even himself. Soraya gave him a proud glance. Test 1. The mirror room. Elias was brought into a small room. The walls shimmered like water, and a soft humming filled the air. This is the mirror room, said a guide. Here you will see your deepest thoughts, truths, even you hide from yourself. Elias stepped inside. The door closed behind him. First, nothing happened, then the air rippled. A glowing version of himself appeared, like a ghost made of stars. It stared at him. You are afraid? It said in his voice. Yes, Elias replied. It's normal. You doubt you belong. Do you think you are not enough for her? Elias looked away. I don't have her power or her bloodline. I don't even belong to this world. She chose you, the mirror self said. I don't understand why, because you are human. And in your weakness, there is strength. Elias sat. Down on the floor, he didn't fight the truth anymore. Yes, he said quietly. I'm afraid, but I still want to stay. And I still want to try. The mirror version smiled, and the room glowed brighter. He had passed. Test 2. The Garden of Echoes, the second test, took place in a strange garden where voices from the past spoke through the wind. Elias walked along a glowing path as whispers surrounded him. They sounded like people from Earth, people from Zorthor. You will ruin her, said one voice. You are not one of us, said another. Leave now. She deserves better. The whispers grew louder, circling his mind, but Elias stopped, took a deep breath, and whispered back, I don't want to be perfect. I just want to be honest. The voices faded, and the garden turned silent. Another test passed. Test 3. The audience of the people. This was the hardest test. Elias was brought to a public hall, where thousands of Zorthri citizens gathered. They wanted to see the human, who might one day walk beside their princess. Some were curious. Some looked doubtful. Others looked angry. Elias stepped forward. I know many of you think I don't belong here, he began. And you might be right, spread through the crowd. But I also know this. I didn't come here to take anything from your world. I came because someone gave me a chance to understand it. She didn't see me as weak. She saw me as human. He paused, then smiled gently. We are still learning to be part of this galaxy, but we feel deeply. We care. We fight not for glory, but for love, for connection, and for the people we hold close. That's what I want to give your princess. There was silence then. Slowly a few clapped, then more and more, until the hall echoed with applause. A mother's. Doubt that evening, Elias was called to the Empress's private chamber. She was not smiling. You have completed the tests, she said. But I must ask you something. As her mother, not as her ruler. Elias nodded. Of course. What will you do, she asked, when her enemies rise? When politics turn ugly? When every choice she makes is judged twice, once for her, once for you? Elias thought for a long time. I will stand beside her, he said. It's not in front of her, not behind her. Beside. You love her? I'm still learning what that means for your kind. But I feel something when I'm near her. A quiet joy. A peace I haven't felt in years. The Empress watched him closely. Then finally, she said, Very well. Soraya's moment that night, under the shimmering light of the 3 moons, Soraya met Elias in the Star Pavilion, a private place where royal bonding ceremonies began. She wore no royal robe this time, just a simple dress of soft silver. I watched your tests, she said. I was terrible in the mirror room, he joked. She smiled. No, you were honest. And honesty is rare in the palace. He stepped closer. What happens now? She held out her hand palm up. In Zorthri culture, showing the palm was a sign of total trust, total openness. Elias slowly placed his hand in hers. Their palms met, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then a light, soft and warm. A bond forming not through power, but through choice. Are you sure? He whispered. Yes, she said. Are you? He smiled. I am. Across the stars, news spread quickly. The human has been accepted. Princess Soraya and Elias Mercer begin royal bonding rituals. Humans officially recognized by Zorthri Council. Earth celebrated. Young students wore fake royal robes. Some people cried. Some people cheered. Some, of course, complained. But one thing was clear. History had changed. A promise for the future in their private quarters. After the ceremony, Elias sat with Soraya beneath a glowing tree that pulsed gently with their heartbeats. Was I what you expected? He asked. No. She said you were more. Elias chuckled. I still can't believe this happened. Soraya looked at him, eyes soft. It happened because we both believed, because you were brave enough to say yes. He looked up at the stars. Then, let's keep saying yes. Elias Mercer had changed, not in appearance, not in voice. He was still the same earthborn teacher who drank tea, made awkward jokes, and loved books. But something inside him had shifted. He stood straighter. He walked with quiet confidence. His eyes, once full of doubt, now held purpose. And beside him walked Princess Sorayatha, heir to the Zorthri Empire, and his chosen partner. But the galaxy did not stay silent for long. Love had bloomed. Now came the storm, an unseen enemy. News of their bonding spread far and wide, while Zorthri celebrated. Some Earth leaders spoke with pride. Peace between 2 different worlds felt closer than ever, but not everyone was happy. Far across the stars, in a cold and hidden fortress, voices spoke in shadows. He is too weak. He is too human. He is the flaw we've been waiting for. A council of ancient Zorthri nobles, long opposed to Soraya's rule, had found a reason to strike. They called themselves the Circle of Purity. They believed the royal bloodline should remain untouched by outsiders. Now, Elias had given them a target, and they began to move. Doubts and whispers inside the palace. The air was changing. Elias could feel it. Guards no longer greeted him with warm nods. Servants whispered behind walls. Even some council members avoided his eyes. He spoke to Soraya one evening as they walked through the floating gardens. They don't trust me, Soraya sighed. They fear change. They fear what they don't understand. Do you? She stopped and turned to him. I fear losing you more than I fear them. Elias reached for her hand. Then we stay strong.
Together?
But in the shadows of the garden, someone was listening. An invitation to dangerous say. A few days later, Elias received a message. You are invited to speak at the Grand Unity Summit. Representatives from all allied systems will attend. As the princess's mate, your voice is important. It was a great honor, but also risky. The summit would be held off-world, on Velthar, a neutral moon far from Zorthar Prime. There, old allies and old enemies would be present. Soraya didn't like it. I should come with you, she said. Elias shook his head. If we both leave, they'll say we're running. But if I go and speak for us, maybe they'll finally listen. She held his hand tightly. Be careful. This is more than politics. This is survival. Journey to Veltharillia is traveled with only a small escort. Velthar's surface was made of smooth black crystal. The summit hall shimmered with light from 5 suns. Inside, hundreds of alien leaders gathered, tall, short, glowing, scaled, feathered, each more different than the last. Elias stepped up to the platform. His heart pounded. He looked out at the crowd. I am not sorcery, he began. I may never fully understand your ways, but I understand love. I understand loyalty. And I understand fear, because I've felt it every day since I came here. He paused, letting his words settle. Some say I do not belong beside Princess Soraya. A belonging doesn't come from blood. It comes from choosing each other. When the stars are against you, there was silence, and quiet applause, then more, till many leaders stood to honor him. But in the back of the room, a figure watched. Waiting the poisoned wine that night, a formal dinner was held. Elias sat at a round table with diplomats from across the galaxy. Plates floated, drinks shimmered. Music filled the air. Someone placed a small crystal cup before Elias. He lifted it and paused. His hand trembled. The scent wasn't right. He lowered the cup. A Zorthri diplomat noticed. Is something wrong, Consort Mercer? Elias smiled calmly. Just not thirsty. Later he passed the cup to a security officer. It was poisoned. Soraya's warning echoed in his mind. This is more than politics. This is survival. The return to Zortharillia's, return to the capital. The Empress herself met him at the landing bay. You were nearly killed, she said coldly. I was careful, Elias replied. You are not trained for this. I'm learning, he said. I'm still here. The Empress studied him. Then, for the first time, she nodded with respect. You are stronger than I expected. But danger had not passed. The Council of Purity had failed to poison him. Now they planned something worse. The Fire Trial message arrived. If the human truly wishes to be one of us, let him prove it in the ancient way. Let him face the fire. Trilone, the fire trial, was an old custom, long abandoned. It was a mental and emotional journey through the depths of one's fear. Many who entered never returned. Soraya was furious. This is madness, she told the council. No one has completed the fire trial in 100 years. His choice, said one cold voice. Elias stepped forward. Then I choose to face it. Soraya's eyes filled with tears. Why? He touched her face gently. 'Cause I'd rather face fire than live in fear. Inside the trial, the fire trial was not real fire, but a chamber of intense psychic force. Elias was guided into a silver pod. Wires touched his temples. The door closed. Then ... silence. Darkness. He found himself in a strange world of memory and fear. He stood in his old classroom. All the seats were empty and filled with angry faces. People yelling, laughing, judging. You don't belong here. You're a mistake. She chose wrong. He clutched his head. Then came the voice. He feared most his own. You're not good enough. Elias sank to his knees. But then he saw her, Sire Ya, not in flesh, but in memory, smiling, holding out her hand. You are enough, she whispered. He reached for her, and the fire began to fade, emerging as one when Elias stepped out of the chamber. His hair was damp, his hands shook, his eyes were tired, but he was alive. Soraya ran to him, fell into her arms. You did it, she whispered. He nodded. I saw everything, my fears, my past, my doubts, but I still chose to stay. A final warning that evening, a message was found in Elias's chamber. You passed the tests. But not all enemies test you with trials. Some strike when you feel safest. It was unsigned, but Soraya knew who had sent it. The Circle of Purity. Won't stop, she said. Elias looked at her with calm strength. Then neither will we. A promise before the crown. The final bonding ceremony approached. It would be public, final, eternal. The royal circle would be closed. Soraya stood with Elias on the highest balcony of the palace. "Tomorrow, everything changes," she said. He took her hand. "We've already changed everything." She laughed softly. Yes, yes, we have." Beneath them, the lights of the city shimmered. Above, stars waited, and in their hearts no fear remained. Only love, only strength, only tomorrow. The day had arrived. Zorthar Prime's skies glowed brighter than ever. The sunbeams passed through crystal towers and floating gardens. Thousands of royal ships formed golden patterns above the palace, each one lighting up with soft pulses like a heartbeat. It was the day of the bonding ceremony, Princess. Soraya would officially take Elias Mercer as her life mate. No more tests, no more trials, no more secrets. But somewhere deep in the shadows of the Empire, an old hatred refused to stay silent. The final night Elias stood in his private chamber, wearing the ceremonial robe, a long silver cloak with blue threads representing. Earth and Zorthar joined together. He looked at himself in the mirror. Just a few months ago, he was a simple human teacher. Now, he stood at the edge of history. There was a soft knock at the door. It opened. Soraya entered, wearing no crowns, just a soft gown made of living light. Her presence made the room warmer. "You look nervous," she said gently. "I am." Elias replied with a small laugh, but not scared. She stepped closer and took his hand. "Then let's walk into tomorrow together." They stood there quietly, hearts steady, eyes soft. For just one more moment. It was just the two of them. The ceremony of light, the royal bonding, took place at the Star Spire, a giant platform floating above the clouds, held by ancient energy that only the Empress could command. Thousands of Zorthri citizens floated in. Viewing domes, Earth diplomats watched from a special section. Even distant galaxies had sent observers. The Empress, tall and powerful in her golden robes, raised her hands. "Today we do not join only two hearts," she announced. "We join two worlds." The crowd became silent. Princess Soraya stepped forward. She raised her palm, the symbol of truth. "I choose this human," she said. "Not for politics, not for image, but for love." He stood when others doubted. He faced what others feared. "He is mine, I am his." Elias stepped forward. "May not have her power," he said, "but I have my word. I have my heart. I give them to her completely." Their hands touched. A glowing energy wrapped around them, soft, golden, alive. It was the ancient bonding light, a symbol of unity. The crowd stood. Applause roared through. The stars, Zorthar and Earth, had changed forever. The attack, but while the galaxy celebrated, the Circle of Purity made its final move. A ship, cloaked in shadow tech, broke through the outer security ring. Inside it sat Lord Varthos, the leader of the Circle. His face was pale, his eyes cold. "We warned them," he said. "Them the cost of mixing bloodlines. They had one mission: destroy Elias Mercer before the bond became permanent. If Elias died before the final seal was completed at sunset, the royal union would be invalid. They had 1 hour, a race against time high." Above the spire, shield walls broke for just a moment, a gap too small for most to notice, but Elias felt it. He turned to Soraya. "Something's wrong." Before she could respond, a sharp explosion rocked the platform. Guards shouted. The crowd screamed. A sleek black ship dropped from the sky, and masked warriors jumped out, each armed with high-energy lances. Soraya's guards moved fast. A shield covered the guests. But Elias was already moving. The attackers rushed straight for him. "Protect the consort," shouted a guard. Elias didn't run. He stood tall. "I'm not afraid of you," he said. A warrior charged at him. But Soraya, it was faster. With a wave of her hand, she summoned a blast of energy that threw the attacker back. "This is my mate," she shouted. "You will not touch him." More warriors jumped from the ship. Lord Varthos stepped onto the platform. "The bond must not complete," he yelled. He is not one of us. Elias stepped forward. I never claimed to be one of you, he said, but I love her. That is something you will never understand. Together as one, the final seal, the symbol of union, was still. Waiting to be activated, it stood behind them on a raised platform, two crystal circles that needed to be touched together by the bonded pair if they could reach it. The bond would be sealed permanently, but the enemy stood in their way. Go, shouted the Empress. Seal the bond. Soraya grabbed Ilias's hand. Together they ran. Energy blasts flew around them. Guards fought off warriors. Guests took cover, but Elias and Soraya kept running. Lord. Varthos raised his weapon. He aimed. A blast shot out and hit Elias in the back. He cried out and fell. No. Soraya screamed, catching him. Blood touched the floor. He looked up at her. You have to finish it, he whispered. No, not without you. He reached for her face with a shaking hand. We started together. We end together. She kissed his forehead. Then she turned with fire in her eyes, rising. She held Elias in one arm and stretched her free hand toward the crystal seal. Light burst from her chest. Her energy touched Elias's hand, and together they touched the final seal, the crown of stars. Wave of energy exploded from the platform. The bond was sealed. The attackers froze then, were pushed back by a golden shockwave. Their weapons shattered. Lord Varthos screamed as he was thrown from the platform and vanished into the clouds below. The shield walls reformed. The sky grew calm. Soraya held Elias, who was barely conscious. The Empress rushed to them. He needs healing, she ordered. Between life and death for 2 days, Elias lay in a healing chamber, his body floating in glowing liquid. Machines hummed. Soraya never left his side. Whispers filled the palace. Will he survive? Is the bond still valid? What happens if he dies? But on the third morning, Elias opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Soraya's tear-streaked face. You stayed? He asked weakly. Always, she whispered. He smiled. Then I guess I'm yours forever. She laughed, holding him tightly. And I'm yours. A new empire, the circle of purity, was dissolved. Lord Varthos was never seen again. The Empress passed a new law. From this day on, the royal line shall be free to choose its heart regardless of origin. Earth and Zorthar formed a permanent alliance. A bridge of stars was built between the two worlds. Elias recovered fully. He became more than a consort. He became a voice for unity across galaxies. Together, Elias and Soraya ruled with kindness, strength, the one thing that no weapon could defeat. Love. The last words years later, children on Zorthar would ask, is it true? A human married the princess? And their parents would smile and say, yes, child. Not only did he marry her, he helped save us all. And high above the palace, in the sky where stars danced, 2 bright lights shone forever side by side, like them together.